Hello and welcome. In this video, I'll be covering an environment design I submitted for the Brainstorm Winter Challenge. Before we get into that though, quick update on my life. After the last video, I got picked up on a project, and then on New Year's Eve, I got married. So along with this project, I've been up to a lot of things. So thank you for watching. I hope you enjoy. Catch you in the video. These are all the images. It's taking quite some time. So what else should we talk about while we're looking at these images? I have a new design process, which I'm going to be talking about through the course of this video. I hope that this design process brings forth more efficiency, better designs. So far, my designs are getting better with this design process. It's starting big and then going small gradually, which has been something that I've suffered in the past from, is thinking too narrow and going with my first idea. But so this is the direction. I call it my big think, caveman terms here. And I just put down terms related to the project that I think will help guide me along. And I choose aesthetic and functional words, and that gives me little ideas for quick sketches that I can then, flesh out later. I chose 3 different directions, and I explore 48 thumbnails in each direction. So in the first 2 columns, we have direction A, second 2, B, and then the last 2, C. For direction A, my vision was an underwater sunken Mayan temple that is maze-like and contains a hidden shadowy reliquary that these 3 treasure hunters are going after. In column B, I was thinking of an Atlantis type underwater city with lots of bioluminescence, very vibrant and beautiful. And in the last option, direction C, we have an abandoned underwater or deep sea mining operation. However, it's not abandoned. Everyone's disappeared, and you play as a investigator trying to find out why they've gone. So I go with option A, direction A, the maze. And I wanted to start with some world building, and I thought, what better than to get into some kind of glyphs? So I look at Mayan pictographs and I try to design sea-themed pictographs. Some of them already exist, like fish. I thought fish was really cool looking. And I put those on some lodestones. These are magnetic rocks that attract bioluminescent bacteria for whatever reason, and they signify the polarity of the rock, and you use those to unlock moon phase puzzle doors. And just an idea that could be elaborated on at a later date. I thought it was pretty cool. I came up with this idea because when I was younger, I grew up playing Myst and Riven and Mysterious Island and Journey with my dad. We never beat Myst. It was pretty hard, but it was still fun nonetheless. Here we can see the asset design getting into some walls and corners. Here's that finished sheet. We have those walls adorned with different types of rocks and coral. On this page, we have doors and arches, and I was trying to play around with what would a locked door look like. And I thought, what if it was sea serpent themed, and when it opens, it sends out a torrent of water because there's like a negative cavity underneath, or a negative space underneath. And those are the final assets designed. With those all designed and ready to go, I go ahead and hop into 3D and get that chugging along. Probably spent a bit too much time getting these 3D. Could probably made them a little bit more simple, but it was good modeling practice nonetheless. And I always enjoy hopping to 3D. Each part of the process, I start off with like, yeah, this is fun. And then after a while, it's like, oh man, this is work. So it's always nice to swap into the next stage. And I always start off with lots of energy, and I set high expectations that I then realize, oh man, I bit off a bit more than I can chew, but gotta chug through nonetheless. And these are the final assets, each sheet. All of them divided. We have those pillars and altars, or altars and statues rather, and then some functional wear here, like stairs and pathways. And then here's the nature assets. I took all these assets and threw them in Unreal. I realized that the material I was using for them was way too light, so I had to change the materials on all of them to a value that was darker, so they wouldn't just be some white blob in the scene. And this part's so relaxing because everything's already designed, and now I'm just trying to match up my scene to the thumbnail that I've also already designed, and it's like adult Legos, or not even adult Legos, just master Legos. As I set this up, and it's, I have the thumbnail of the scene that I'm working on the bottom right, and then the thumbnail of the concept I did on the bottom left. And it's just as simple as matching those two up. Another thing that I have difficulty with is, again, it's the same thing, not biting off more than I can chew. So I kept having to remind myself, constrain, constrain, constrain. We're not doing the entire map. We're just doing these shots. I'm very tempted to want to just dive in and start building out an entire game map or something along those lines with these janky assets. But I got to make sure I keep myself in check, because I can very easily go overboard and waste a lot of time. And that is my theme this year, is efficiency, being more efficient with my time. Just because I can wake up early and work all day doesn't mean that that time is spent doing, the correct thing. I need to make sure that the time I'm working is not just drawing or sculpting for drawing or sculpting's sake, but that it's going towards an end product that is succinct. I definitely went a little bit overboard on the setting up of the scenes here, because again, once I get into that process and that flow, it's just time flies and I lose myself in it. It's so much fun. And I get this third scene here. This one was a little bit more challenging to set up, as it was difficult to get the elevation just right in the distance, but I figured it out, and it was a lot of playing around. But it's so satisfying to see that bottom right slowly develop and match up with that thumbnail. And I love 3D. It makes things so much simpler. But you probably saw a quick glimpse of me swapping back to Blender. It's because I was having mesh issues. And it was as simple as going into Blender and flipping the normals on the mesh so that they're in the correct position, and then re-importing into Unreal. And that Unreal makes that process so simple, just auto updates. And there's a second lighting on that scene, and the fourth one. All this going towards this big temple. So I take all these scene outputs and I throw them into Krita. I'm using Krita now. I've said goodbye to Photoshop. It crashed on me for the last time, and I lost a big project, and I said no more. So I swapped to Krita. It's free, and it hasn't crashed on me yet. So I'm pretty happy about using it. And it took a little while just to get used to the way it works. One thing I would say about Krita compared to Photoshop is its photo manipulation isn't nearly as good. But it does have a lot of cool painting tools and drawing tools. So that is a plus. So you can see here that I'm swapping between scenes. That's a practice that I'm working on, is not sticking to one for too long and constantly swapping, so that way my ideas stay fresh and that I don't develop one to a finish while I still have other ones half-baked. I still get to that point, but the reason I had developed one more than the others is because I do decide to go with the first scene, because I felt it matched the prompt more, which was into the abyss. So even though these divers are slowly getting deeper into the ocean, in each of those scenes they're going up, whereas in this first scene it's the only one where they're going down. And there's no context in the scenes of the overall world, so you can't tell that they're descending, but in a few moments they're going up. So I felt that the scene one, again, was going to be the best bet. So I take that rough drawing and I do clean line work over it. In retrospect, this is where I should have said, okay, it's good enough, let's go into painting. But knowing me, I love to draw, so I feel the need to texture everything, show the materials of everything, uh, non-efficiently. Just get lost in the process, and that is something I promise I'm working on. It is something I get critiqued on too, so and to the detriment of the other scenes that didn't get nearly the same amount of polish. So again, I am aware of the issue. It is under advisement. So with less time than I wanted to work on the painting, I got to work on the painting, and this is what I submitted for the final. This is the environment design that I submitted, along with the call out sheet that's coming up right here. And you can see all the assets. It took me a while because, again, I wanted to show all the assets I designed. So it was a little bit heartbreaking to cut out some of the assets that I felt weren't necessary to show in the final. So this is my critique. Cynics went ahead and did the critiques for the contest, and he said my prop design is going in a good direction, which made me happy. But he stated the obvious and said that there's too much lines, there's way too many lines, too much lines, got to reduce that line density, lines. I love drawing, but the composition was inconsistent. I needed to correct the overlap issues and design focal points that lead the eye better. There's a lack of clarity as well in my rendering. I needed to better define my light versus shadow and reduce material information and only indicate it along the terminator. That was something that I found very useful. I did not know about that. A quote from Cynics about light maps was, compositional thumbnails should just be about the light and the darkness and how they describe a scene and how they interact in order to describe a scene and how you can sort of position around that to look here and look there and back around to that first part. So that is a very well said description of how to approach compositional thumbnails. So this is the cleanup. After the submission, I went ahead and followed the advice, and I cleaned up the line work, and then I simplified my light map. Then I went to work on getting those colors in. And to save myself some time, I went ahead and also slapped over the previous painting to get some of those colors back, because I did like that kind of green tone. And then I got to work on just levels adjusting, making sure all the values are correct, because I wanted black to be scarce. So most of the scene is dark, but I wanted to be very sacred with my blacks, so that way they only pop up on my inks, and then everything else just kind of fades away. And I think I did that fairly successfully on this piece. So we're wrapping up here, and I believe this is the final shot. Final thoughts. Overall, I learned a lot. A little bit disappointed in myself, but I'm still working on it. Gonna get better at being more efficient, having better clarity in my work, and being more intentful with what I want to show. I'm so eager to want to show everything, but I gotta be concise in my presentation and in my work in general. Moving forward, I hope this actually saves me time, and I know it will. But that's my submission for the Brainstorm Challenge. Thank you for watching.